My name is Liz Anderson-Peacock, and I practice in Barrie, Ontario. I've been a chiropractor since 1986. And one of my miracle stories is the first time I actually went to a chiropractor. And I went for the proverbial, everyone thinks you go to a chiropractor when you have low back pain, which is what I did, is I waited till I had low back pain. Went to see my first chiropractor, which happened to be across the country in Alberta. And my miracle was this chiropractor looked at me and asked me what was wrong with my neck. And I'm thinking, what does that have to do with my low back? It's my low back that's just killing me right now. And she eventually got down to the low back, but she was really looking at my whole spine and really saying, your body works as one unit, your spine is one unit. When a problem is in one area, it can compensate in other areas, and so on and so forth. But the miracle for me was when she got into my spine, she started asking me about my history. And I hadn't given her any of this history. And she started saying, any problems with difficulty breathing, tightness in the chest, shortness of breath, any problems with sinus congestion, allergies, asthma types of stuff, history of pneumonia. And I just looked at her like this was a voodoo woman, because number one, what did it have to do with my low back? Number two, what was she asking me about all these things for? And what was really bizarre is that as a child, I had to live in an air purified room for 4 months every summer. I had extremely severe allergies. I had all the skin testing done. You named it. If it was alive, I was allergic to it. No foods, but all plants and animals. We happened to live on the water, on a lake. I was a competitive swimmer, and we also lived on the water. And I had 2 bedrooms. I had one bedroom that had my bed and my air purifier in it. I had another bedroom that I could go to when I could function outside of the day. So for 4 months every summer until the first frost, basically from June through till October, I would wake up in the morning as a 6-year-old with my cocktail of pills. And I would have a glass of water beside my bed, and it was either a combination of one of them, but it was either pyrobenzamine, Dimetapp, or Allergies, because it was the early 60s. And I remember thinking, you know what, if I chew those little pills, then I'm going to be healthy because I won't have any symptoms. And so when I woke up in the morning, I thought if I chew the pills, I swallow them, they're going to be in little bits, they're going to be absorbed, and then I'm healthy. And I didn't have any of these symptoms. So when I went to this chiropractor and she's asking about allergies with watery eyes, difficulty breathing, I'm like, what does this have to do with my neck? And let alone my low back. And she went on and asked me some really pertinent questions. And she said, well, what causes your allergies? And I said, well, goldenrod, hay fever. I have hay fever, but goldenrod, ragweed, my dogs, my cats, all these various things. And she said, really? So what is it that really creates it? And I said, well, it's pollens in the air when I breathe them in. Really? Pollen's in the air. Now, if you and I right now are breathing the same air, wouldn't we also be breathing the same pollens? And I said, yeah, that makes sense, obviously. And she said, well, if pollens truly caused allergies, and we're both breathing the same air and hence the same pollens, and it causes allergies, why is it when I breathe the same air you breathe, I don't have allergies? And I kind of went, I don't know. No one's ever asked me that question before. And she said, had I ever had a bad accident as a little kid? And I said, you know what? I remember before there was seatbelts, well, I didn't know there was not seatbelts, but when my mom had a car accident, I hit the dashboard, had 2 black eyes. They look at you and they say, okay, she's fine, she hasn't done anything, so off you go. And I had sustained at that point, obviously, an injury to my upper neck. And it was from that point on, in retrospect, that my allergies had started. And they got severe right through to the age of 18. I had once a week an allergy shot for 10 years, and it still didn't do anything for me. And you think, what a compliant patient that doesn't figure out this isn't working. Anyways, I was a little slow. And so when I went to this chiropractor, basically she said, did you know that what controls your immune system? And I said, I don't know. And she said, it's your nervous system. I said, really? And she said, and your nervous system in your neck happens to go to the areas that create a healthy immune system and not a hyperreactive or a hypoactive immune system. It also controls the area that goes to ears, nose, throat, hence sinuses. And this really makes sense. I had a degree in biology. It made sense, but no one ever explained it to me. I didn't connect the dots. So I said, okay, well, please adjust me then. So she adjusted me, and it was like someone had taken earmuffs off my ears. Even though I'd never tested for a hearing problem, I could hear more clearly. My allergies improved by about 80% at that point in time, like instant. I was like angry because no one had ever told me about this before, and I'm thinking all this wasted time. But that's also what motivated me to become a chiropractor, because otherwise, if I had never had that experience, I never would have been where I was. And it just made so much sense to me that the nervous system runs the body. It runs everything in the body. And when the body is clear, that's when miracles happen. And I have one other case that when I got into practice, I was really disillusioned because I kind of got into this other medical type model that is one way of practicing, but it wasn't the practice that I had really originally dreamed of, and I didn't know how to turn things around. And lo and behold, my miracle was this little girl who was 18 months old who came in. Her mother had heard about me, and she could not crawl. She could only commando crawl at 18 months. She could only use her 2 front arms, and her legs were dragging behind her. She had nothing going on with her legs, and at this point she should have been walking. The mother had taken the child to an orthopedic surgeon, to neurologists, to even a child psychiatrist to see what was going on. They couldn't find any physical reason for this child not to be able to be walking. There was just no diagnosis, no reason, no rationale. So as a last resort, the mom had heard about us and brought the little girl in to see me. I did my exam, which was also including all the things I ought to do with a proper physical examination, orthopedic and neurological. And then I thought, you know what, I got to get into this kid as a chiropractor. So I palpated her spine, and at the very bottom of her spine, there's this area that's called the sacrum. And it was really off alignment. It was just cutting the flow. And I couldn't promise anything, of course, but you know what? Innate, my instinct was just saying, this is where the problem is. And of course, none of these other professions would have looked for it because that's not what they do. That's what we do. And there's a reason why this little kid's in my office. So I said to the mom, I'm going to adjust her sacrum. I really don't know what is or isn't going to happen, but I do know that this isn't supposed to be like this. So I adjusted it, and it made this resounding noise, which scared me and the mother. But the sacrum was moving after that. And I said to the mom, take her home, give me a call in a couple of days. So one of the rules in my office is nobody interrupts me when I'm seeing patients because patients are the most important thing. Well, I get an interruption from one of my staff members, and she goes, Liz, Christy's mom is on the phone and she's in tears. You better take the call. And of course I'm like, oh no, oh no. And I took the call, and the mom was in tears because Christy was pulling her knees to her chest and starting to crawl. 2 days with this little kid. And I'll tell you, that turns you around.